comes the sun, doo-doo-doo. Here comes the sun, I say it's alright.
Hi, I'm Giovanna,
And I'm Madalena.
and today we're going to be talking about the Beatles.
The Beatles were from Liverpool, England. In March of 1957, a 16-year-old John Lennon formed a band with a couple of his friends from the Quarry Bank School. At first they were called the Blackjacks, then the Quarrymen. Then Stuart Sutcliffe, Lennon's friend from art school, joined the band as a bass guitarist and suggested calling the band the Beatles, which was a tribute to Buddy Holly and the Crickets. Also, the Beatles is spelled like the beat of a song and not like the actual bug. Sutcliffe left the band, but of course Paul McCartney, Ringo Starr, and George Harrison stayed. They moved to Hamburg, Germany for a while, where they performed in strip clubs that had been converted into music venues. The Beatles finally got a hit song with their song Love Me Do. Their place of origin was really important because they were the first British band to make it big in America. The Beatles were influenced by many artists. Chuck Berry was an American artist who had a big influence on them. In fact, they even included covers of his songs in their live performances early on. The Beatles also had very distinct vocal harmonies that they drew from Motown and performed songs such as the Marvelettes' Please Mr. Postman. Beatles member George Harrison was particularly fond of American rockabilly music and incorporated that style into the Beatles' sound as well. John Lennon also had a lot of respect for Elvis's music, and once said, "Before Elvis, there was nothing." In the early years, the Beatles used a lot of falsetto, which was influenced by the artist Little Richard. The Beatles were influenced by many more artists and groups, such as Carole King, Buddy Holly, and Bob Dylan. The Beatles have inspired countless artists and musical groups today. David Grohl from the Foo Fighters said the Beatles inspired him from a very young age, and that he learned about music from a guitar and a Beatles songbook. George Harrison's complex riff inspired Joe Walsh of the Eagles, and he spent hours trying to perfect that same riff. The list goes on and on. Many beloved artists and groups such as the Beach Boys, Billy Joel, the Bee Gees, and Bruce Springsteen were influenced by the Beatles' unique sound. The Beatles' song Strawberry Fields Forever was one of the first defining songs of the psychedelic rock genre. Although it was about Lennon's childhood memories, it had a hazy dream feel to it. Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds was also rumored to be about drugs, with its initials being LSD, and having a strong psychedelic feeling, but was actually about Lennon's son's drawing called Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. They used a foundation of standard rock instruments like drums and guitars in their music. Sometimes the Beatles also experimented with Indian music. They were rebellious and sang about subjects that teenagers loved and parents thought were completely inappropriate. At this period in time, many people were still not comfortable with more benign drugs such as marijuana, so this topic was absurd to older generations who believed in conservative suburban living.
Between 1964 and 1966, the Beatle haircut, also known as the mop top because of its resemblance of a mop, was widely imitated by American fans. As well as the mop top, they brought about the trend of long hair for men and made it socially acceptable. During the psychedelic era, the Beatles made bright colors and paisley prints popular. The Beatles were one of the first British bands to break into the American music industry. They mixed different styles to create their own kind of music, from Indian to rockabilly inspired. Many music groups make albums with one or two hits and a lot of filler songs, but the Beatles were not this way. Their albums were full of hits. The Beatles won 10 Grammys and even an Academy Award. They are the best-selling music artists of all time. They dominated the music scene for years, so much that the frenzy over them became known as Beatlemania. They were so big that stadium tours were introduced, and in 1966, they had to retire from live shows and touring. John Lennon even said that the Beatles are more popular than Jesus. I think it's amazing that people nowadays still listen and love the Beatles' music. Even if someone doesn't know who the Beatles are, they have definitely heard one of their songs before. That just proves how the Beatles will influence American lives for many years to come.